Hello, a virtual hello to you,
Hello,
and
Heather.
a virtual hug too.
Yay!
So
You see,
Magda, I've known you for so long,
mm,
and you are such a talented person. You do so many body work kinds of modalities too that are really important. You do registered massage, you do cranial sacral, you do acupuncture, along with the traditional Chinese medicine. You've taught. I could go on for hours, but why don't you tell us some of your favorite specialties, and maybe we can talk then about food. You had a great tip on Facebook that I loved about what people can do for their bodies, and I'm all about the food that goes into my body. So yeah, let's discuss that.
mm. Well, thank you, Heather, for inviting me, and thank you for doing what you're doing. This is really great, spreading this idea of we have community to help each other. So thank you very much for
My pleasure.
connecting us all together and allowing other people to see and be empowered. This is all about empowering others so they know they have choices. They are not stuck, and really we are all together in it.
That's true.
Um, So what I do, what my passion really is in Chinese medicine. um, I love the ancient traditions and practices, understanding the human body from the perspective of not only the physical aspect, but also the energetic, spiritual, emotional, and so on and so forth, which Chinese medicine so beautifully encompasses all of them together. And our health is really how balanced we are in all of the aspects. And where our disease starts is different for every one of us. For me, it can be in my emotional body. For you, it might be in the physical. For someone else, it can be in some other aspect. So we need to take everything in account. So this is my passion, really, to work with people that way, and that brings that shamanic component that I was very lucky to study with wonderful people and shamans, locally and internationally, and combine those two aspects of shamanism and Chinese medicine together. Let's face it, in 1950s, the shamanic component was removed from Chinese medicine, and basically it became uh, more or less westernized Chinese medicine, when you literally put needles in the body to trigger a nerve system response, the central nervous response. And yes, body does heal itself, because that's what we are great about. That's what our bodies is like, this machine that is really miracle. Uh, our intention, my intention of putting needles somewhere can and is triggering that response from the body. So yeah, those two things, combining Chinese medicine and shamanism in a way to help others.
I didn't know that that there was a shamanic component to the. That's very
Absolutely.
interesting, and that is, as you said, it's body, mind, and spirit, and it all works together, which is something that Western medicine seems to ignore largely.
Yes.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Well, we could have another conversation on that.
We
And a
will.
live one. Oh, yay!
so so in your Facebook post, you talked about foods and nutritional uh, recommendations to help support the physical body during this time. Would you like to talk a little about that?
Sure. So let's talk a little bit, when we get to the food. Let's talk a little bit about the virus itself. So from the autopsies and this is when I am more than grateful for Western medicine. They have the tools, they have the ability to look inside the body and physically see and analyze tissue and what happened to the body during the disease that the patient went through. And we know this is very, very cold virus. And cold virus to the point that it literally freezes the airways and
Mm-hmm.
constrict them. That's why people have pain, inability to breathe, and all this respiratory issue that is associated with. So byproduct of cold is accumulation of phlegm. So when there is heat, heat is like a river that moves, and heat is chi. Heat is that vital energy in our body. So when heat is absent, the phlegm accumulates, and there's nothing to warm up and move it out of our body.
Makes sense.
So, so therefore, the antidote for cold is warmth. So warmth, outside warmth, but most important is what we put in our body. So that internal temperature will rise. When I say cold environment inside the body or warm environment inside the body, I really don't mean the temperature that can be measured with a thermometer. Okay. So we have this is like thermal property of our body. That's the internal environment. That temperature, the thermometer will do absolutely nothing. So that temperature has to be at certain level to prevent spreading disease, to prevent congealing of the mucus and the breathway, airwaves. And so warm foods, anything, simple things. We can talk about lists forever, but what I would invite everybody to do really is Google TCM food cures. And food cures is the term, and we can find all kinds of wonderful ideas on the net. What foods work, what foods don't work, and so on and so forth. So what are warm foods? We have access to simple things like, let's say, ginger. Ginger is, or garlic. These are very nice warm foods. They are also anti-inflammatories, antibacterial, and so on and so forth. So we doing ourselves so much good by just, in Chinese, we call it ginger soup. And you know, in Western mind, when I teach, I ask students, so what do you think ginger soup is? Well, I put chicken, then carrots, and then slice of ginger. No, it's the other way around. You put ginger and water and you have ginger soup, right? And we can drink this liquid, especially in the morning, to boost our immunity. So morning time has different properties than the transitional time of the early afternoon into evening. So morning time is when we get up and we have rested nicely, and we use the digestion to produce qi and blood, and we have, let's say, a bank account that we have, let's say, $1,000 every single morning that we wake up. So to keep that $1,000 ongoing and make interest, we use warming foods, and that's what builds our interest in our immunity. Warm foods, good foods. People are using smoothies. Put some garlic in it, put some ginger in it. Spinach might not be a good idea for you, and all the greens may not be really good idea for it. Plus, taking, according to Chinese medicine, taking fruits is really cooling for the body. So fruits should be eaten in the afternoon and evening. So the morning is to build our heat in the body to move us through the day. The evening is when we can and should take a little bit of cooling foods or neutral foods for those of us who have a little bit impaired immunity, neutral foods. So we will actually cool our system down so we can sleep and rest and offer our body to build that $1,000 for the day to move on to for the next day. So this is the whole idea, that fine balance, building homeostasis with foods, warming in the morning, neutral in between, and neutral or cooler. I would never say take cold foods, because that's too much of a clash for the system, and that actually can lower immunity. So cooling or neutral foods for the evening, so we can actually sleep better.
Sorry, please.
The concept of sleep in Chinese medicine actually depends on that cooling mechanism in ourselves, which comes from kidney. And kidney is also where fear resides, right? So when we live during the day in quite a bit of fear, kidneys are getting warmer. Although fear is cold feeling, accumulation of cold will create heat eventually. So our hearts will feel that heat and we will not be able to sleep. So a little bit of insomnia, a little bit of tiredness, tossing and turning, difficulties falling asleep, all those things may happen. Our mind, according to Chinese medicine, lives in blood. So we need to cool blood to allow mind to sleep.
So what would you suggest as a food? Like, a lot of people like to have a little snack in the evening, I know it's not a good idea to eat just before you go to bed, but if you were going to have something, say, an hour or two before you went to bed, what would you suggest as a snack?
A little snack?
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you example, hummus is very cooling. Chickpea is very cooling. Anything that's made of chickpea is actually very cooling and cold for that matter. Soy milk.
Oh, interesting.
Soybeans are very cooling. Tofu is very cooling. So yeah, have a little bit of that. Actually, water is cold and cooling. So a very interesting question came to me from Africa when somebody read this post, and actually two questions. One was about water. Why not drinking water? Water is cold. It is good and beneficial to drink in the afternoon and evening, especially a little bit, especially for someone with impaired immunity. Water in the morning will put the fire out, so to speak. As we trying to build fire, water will put it out. We all need water. So drinking infused water in the morning, infused with black tea, for instance, chai tea, brings that warmth and makes water a little more warm. So yes, a little bit of hummus, cantaloupe, a little bit of fruit in the evening as a snack is a good idea. We need to watch for sugar content. Sugar builds mucus, and that's another thing that obstructs airways. Raw foods, yes.
What about elderberries? What's your view on elderberries?
Elderberry. Oh, somebody made me amazing syrup, elderberry syrup. This is a very good Western recipe for coughs. Yes, absolutely. Anything that is immunity, anything that is antioxidant, that fights free radicals. Free radicals are the components that make our system rather acidy. And when acid is in the body, then there is a problem. Mm-hmm. Yes, the only thing that I would say with anything that we are doing these days is to watch sugar content. So we're so used to putting extra sugar in our system, in our bodies. Fruits are considered very sweet. Elderberry syrup, obviously we put tons of either honey or sugar in it. It will build mucus in a system, and we want to avoid. So another thing that builds mucus is raw foods. Dairy products are very, very, I always explain to my patients, if you take a drop of milk on your finger and put your fingers together and try to open them gently, there will be line connection between your fingers. That's the mucus.
I know, but coffee with cream is so good.
And you know what?
So delicious.
Yes, have it and enjoy it. So that's another part, living in joy and really enjoying what we're doing. This is really, really important. If we want to fight fear, the best way is to really stay positive.
Yes.
And enjoy what we have. If I have only raw foods and that's all I will eat today, let me make that intention that I will enjoy, and my body will build resistance to building mucus, building cold in the body. The mind is extremely powerful, and we can overcome absolutely anything. This is my prayer and forever, especially now.
I agree with you completely. So there are two things I want to say. One, when you were talking about the symbolism of parts of the body and the emotions, that lungs are associated with grief. And I saw a post on Facebook about how what we're doing right now is grieving. And you know, there are several stages to grieving, and it's partly it's accepting it is one stage, for example. Denial is another stage before the accepting. So I think if we all take really good care of our lungs and figure out that emotional component, it will strengthen us as well. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And there are ways to work with lungs and work with with our grief, with our sadness. I just recently lost my father, and my mom, who's 75, suddenly developed terrible respiratory issue, and possibly she may have the virus, and that is just to show how fragile we are when there is emotions that are hitting us very strongly, and we need to somehow protect ourselves. So um, Google, Google lung meridian, and lung meridian is all in our hand, and we can simply massage, press on it, and on 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 the inner side of the forearm, starting from the thumb all the way to just beneath the clavicle. That's where lung one is, and this is the most important point. So even putting hands and self-massaging is extremely beneficial and extremely helpful. And let's face it, nobody else will do it for me right now, so I'm gonna do it myself.
Well, I was talking to another guest, Moira, yesterday, and she was saying, right now we can give ourselves a hug. And I think that's really important. It's the whole. I did a little tiny video by myself about the Metta Bhavana and how that loving kindness starts with you and giving loving kindness to yourself, and then it extends out to your community and to the world. So it's all right here, and this is an amazing opportunity. Got to look at it that way because
Mhm.
yeah, it's the best way we can look at it. Now is the time to practice all those self-care things and to also reach out virtually and know that there's a community that is going to support all of us. Uh, Unfortunately, those who don't have access to the internet are I'm quite concerned about, but we do what we can, right? So if people would like to learn more, I'm going to get you to send me those links you mentioned to the food and to the acupuncture
Yes.
points or to the meridians. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
I've been so creative recently. Last 2 days, I spent time learning technology, which I was pushing so much away.
I
Finally,
hear
I
you.
have a web page. It is a skeleton, but is there.
I hear you.
I will be offering, talking about lungs, what can help lungs, breathing, a conscious breathing.
Yes.
Conscious meaning, why am I breathing, or what is my intention with the breath.
Yes.
Breath in ancient tradition is the spirit itself, so we're
Mm-hmm.
inviting spirit to cleanse us. I will be offering 3 sessions for anybody who would like to join me. Please come to my webpage, or I can post it with you also and send the link. This will be
Yes.
free. I want people to feel empowered. I want people to know that they have tools, that they know what to do. They are not stuck. Breath can move us out of anxiety, out of fear, out of sadness, out
Yes.
of disease. So let's do it. Let's create that global electromagnetic field with our breath that can really spread and encompass the whole earth and
Are
work.
are you doing that as a video, or are you doing that as a like live Facebook, or how is that going to
That
be presented?
That will be most likely Zoom meeting. Yeah. So it
Okay.
will be guided breath. Everybody is invited. I mostly invite those who never did breathing before. It will be guided breath. For those who did breath with me or other practitioners before, it might be a little bit boring. because they know what breath is and how to breathe, and they don't need guidance. But I want to spread the word about breath, and give them technique on how to connect with their inner healer, inner doctor that we all have.
Yes. Well, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'll post all those links when I post the video. And thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom today.
Well, thank you, Heather. This is really so important what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.